Hi, I'm John Carlin, part of the Microsoft Windows developer team. By now, most people know that Microsoft Windows 10 was designed from the ground up to be the most compatible Windows operating system ever. It should be no surprise that it's now running on over 500 million devices. Windows 10 not only introduces a wealth of new productivity and performance features, it also marks the beginning of a new way that Microsoft will be servicing and upgrading the OS to make this process much faster and much more reliable than it's been in the past. Consumers have come to expect frequent and easy upgrades when it comes to their mobile devices. While it's much more difficult to bring the same fluidity and cadence to enterprise upgrades, Windows 10 marks the beginning of this new reality. To deliver on this, ISVs play a key role in this new service model by following simple guidelines that help decouple the dependency of their applications on the more rapid Windows 10 upgrades that are now shipping. Today, we're going to look at some important new tools and programs that we've introduced to help our developer partners keep millions of customers around the world in applications that support Windows 10 and the new servicing model. I'm pleased to introduce my esteemed colleague, Steve Diacetis, Principal Program Manager Lead, to talk about Ready for Windows and help you understand the value it offers to you and your customers and how you can benefit by registering Windows 10 support for your applications. Tell us a little bit about your history with Ready for Windows and when it first landed and what the vision was in terms of delivering value.
Hi John, thanks for having me. I'm a member of the Windows Fundamentals team, and one of the areas we focus on is application compatibility. Ready for Windows shipped July of 2016, I believe, and the motivation around this site really was to bring our story around compatibility out to the public. So we know from talking to our commercial customers that the move to Windows 7 was pretty painful, and AppCompat has been an issue there. And so with Windows 10, we really focus on keeping compatibility great, and we wanted to get our message out. Ready for Windows, we thought, was an opportunity to do so. And so what we did first with Ready for Windows is we leveraged the feedback and diagnostic information that we get from Windows 10, and from there gained insights about which apps that we believe are running well, and in some cases which ones weren't. And we wanted to bring that to the public primarily for IT professionals that are considering moving to Windows 10. Can they find the applications that they need in their company and understand from Microsoft's point of view how well they're working. But in addition, besides just leveraging telemetry, we also know that there are some applications that are critical for our commercial customers, and they really need a more formal support statement from the software developer. And so Ready for Windows makes it very easy for ISVs to come to the site with a few clicks, sign in, and declare their support in the directory. And now what we have is a directory that's driven really from two sources: a message from the software developer about what's compatible or what is supported, as well as a message from Microsoft in terms of what we're seeing in terms of the health of the application. And we think together that becomes a great resource for IT pros that are considering moving to Windows 10, and once they're on Windows 10, staying current.
Sounds like that would be a great resource. What about for ISVs though? So if I'm going to spend my time and go through the registration process, what is it that I'm going to benefit from? I can certainly see how my customers are going to benefit by finding all that information in one place and knowing what's compatible and what's reliable, so I can find devices that I can start pushing the upgrades out to. But what about me as an ISV? What does it mean to me?
Well, I think as an ISV, one consideration is trying to understand where their customer base is. And so as more and more of their customers move to Windows 10, their customers are going to have a need to be able to continue to stay current as Microsoft, as we ship feature updates every 6 months. And so they're going to be looking to bring software into their enterprise that they know will be supported as they move from one release of Windows every 6 months and forward. So I think the key is that the ISVs will really, if they really want to understand their customers and the challenges their customers are going to have, there's going to be a need for them to really declare support that spans Windows 10 all up, not just for a particular release.
And so when you say spanning Windows 10 all up, I assume you're referring to the new cadence of monthly service updates and then twice a year feature updates, right?
That's right. With Windows 10, it has a different servicing model. So we now ship every 6 months and view that as a feature release where new features are delivered. but on a monthly basis or even more frequent, we're shipping quality updates and security updates as well.
So as an ISV, how do I make sure that when I come out with a new release, and in the meantime, Microsoft is coming out with new Windows 10 service packs or service updates, that I'm not going to have a compatibility issue?
Well, I guess the first point to make is being a member of the compatibility team, we're working very hard to keep the OS compatible from release to release. So we test upwards of 3,000 applications regularly during the 6-month software development cycle, and we look at feedback and diagnostics that are coming in from the insider population. So we're doing everything we can, and we believe we can, inside of Microsoft to keep the OS compatible, number one. But in addition, ISVs can follow some of our best practices. We have a compatibility cookbook that's on the web that they can learn really how they can write applications that are stay compatible. For those that are willing to move to the modern platform, they can write UWP apps as well. But the other one is to actually get their customers, some of their customers are going to be on the insider population. So we are also bringing some of the information that we learn from the insiders back to software developers to help them through tools that we'll have in Dev Center, tools that we announced at Build of this year and will be coming out soon, to help them learn how their applications are running prior to us shipping the next feature update.
So what you're telling me, Steve, is that as an ISV, if I follow your rules and I use these tools and the guidance that you're providing, I shouldn't really have to worry about my application becoming incompatible with each new subsequent release of the Windows 10 service update. Is that correct?
That's the plan. Microsoft will do their job to keep the OS compatible. We'll also bring insights to the developer so that they can monitor. But we're asking more than just write it once and forget about it. We do want them to monitor the health of their application. And by joining the Insider program, they can access early builds of ours, start doing testing of their application on those early builds, and report back to us in the event that something goes wrong. And it's in both of our interests, given we have the same set of customers, to work together to resolve any of those issues prior to us shipping a 6-month feature payload.
Well, one question I have is there a cost to me, the ISV, when I want to sign up for this directory listing?
There's no cost at all. Really, all you have to do is visit readyforwindows.com. As long as you have a Microsoft account or AAD credentials, sign in, and it's very, very simple to declare your metadata, and you really just need to do it once. It'll light up in the directory, usually the next day, sometimes even faster. And you really don't have to go back and revisit your declaration unless you want to change, say, some metadata about your application. For example, a URL where you can communicate your support policy or statement to your customers.
Sounds pretty simple. One of the terms that I heard as I was kind of paging through was evergreen support, and I wondered if you might be able to explain what that really means, not just the definition, but in terms of what does it mean to me when I commit to evergreen support?
Yeah, I don't know that we ever really refer to that term evergreen support on the site, but I think in spirit it's a good word. When we say evergreen, I think we also internally refer to it as sort of a modern support policy. And what that really means is, similar to Windows, customers are going to be on multiple versions of Windows. We release every 6 months, so in theory, not everyone's going to be on the latest release. You may have some that are still getting support from Microsoft, but are on a release -1 or release -2. And so the ISV's customers may be spread over, let's say, 2 or 3 Windows releases. We're asking the ISVs to provide regular quality and or security updates to all of their customers, regardless of which Windows 10 build it's on. And more specifically, really the current release of Windows 10, as well as the previous 2 releases, because that's where we believe their customer base is going to be on. And the reason is, as their customers, not all customers will go at the same speed. Some of them may lag a little bit in terms of moving to the next version of Windows 10 or the next build of Windows 10. And so we want them to install their software knowing that they're going to continue to get support as they are running on the current release of Windows 10 or one that's supported.
Well, now we've talked a little bit about what it means to an ISV to register, and I'm assuming that By doing so, people around the world can easily find all of the supporting Windows 10 applications in one place, and they can tell if there's telemetry data there, how reliable those applications are. Let's take a quick look, if we can, at the customer side. And what does it really mean when the customer's going through an upgrade of thousands of different applications that have to run on the new OS? How does that ready for Windows data help the customer situation?
Well, right now we're recommending customers leverage a solution we call Windows Analytics. So certainly Ready for Windows is a simple website, allow you to query one application at a time, but it really doesn't scale to handle the workflow of deploying thousands of machines with thousands of unique applications in that environment. And so we suggest they install Windows Analytics, and all the information that we have in Ready for Windows is automatically brought into that tool and joined with the inventory, the set of applications that a particular company might have. So if you're an IT pro and you're actually going through a planning of Windows 10, you'll likely move away from the Ready for Windows site and move into a more sophisticated tool with much more features.
So the net result of that is that I can start pushing out Windows upgrades to devices based on what apps and drivers are running on them, right? That's pretty cool. So we don't have to wait 2 or 3 years and do thousands of hours of testing of all of our apps before we can actually start pushing out new Windows 10 upgrades, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the value of Ready for Windows is it helps with prioritizing what to test and maybe what not to test. So there'll be a subset of applications in a particular company that may be viewed as mission critical, that must be tested. But then there's a whole long tail of applications covering marketing and sales and so forth that will have to be prioritized. We believe Ready for Windows status and the automatic integration into Windows Analytics will help the IT pro that's planning the deployment to decide where they may be able to reduce time. And so some of these apps on Ready for Windows, whether they're broadly adopted by other commercial customers or they're supported by the software developer, that may fall into a lower risk category and therefore can either be deferred or in some cases not tested at all.
So reflecting back on the experience I had when I was going through the site, I saw that there were 2 criteria, one that said adopted and one that said well adopted. Can you tell me what does that really mean and how do I interpret that?
Yeah, there's for every application, usually there are multiple versions of that application that are seen from our data on commercial customers. Application X versions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so we will provide a status for each one of those versions. Adopted and highly adopted really are just signs that many other commercial customers running Windows 10 have also deployed that application in their company. So it's a sign that because it's being broadly used by others, that it's likely to run well, or it's been adopted. There are other statuses in there as well, such that if we believe, based on our internal testing or based on what we get from telemetry, that there may be a problem with that application, we gently share that with the IT pro, saying they should pause on this application, or at least this version of the application, and considering getting more information from the software developer.
Well, hey, I'm wondering if I'm in a large enterprise and now I'm involved in this major upgrade of thousands of applications and maybe tens of thousands of devices, and I consult my report out of the analytics tool, out of Windows Readiness Upgrade Analytics, and I don't see a particular application that is really important to me. Am I going to hold up my upgrade waiting for that, or can I work around that and ring fence that off somehow, or what does that mean to the ISV if I'm like, am I going to hold everything up because there's this one application that's behind the curve? How should I interpret that? What should I do?
Yeah, there's a few cases there. I mean, first, we're really only showing applications on there that we think are relevant for our commercial customers. So, for example, we remove games if we believe they're games based on other metadata that we think aren't really that relevant for a business customer to move forward to. So you could certainly find situations where they are finding apps that are not on Ready for Windows. That's one case. Another case is that it's a very specialized app that's just not seen by many customers, or it's by customers that maybe are not sending information to Microsoft. And so we don't really have knowledge about that. that shouldn't necessarily hold up your deployment. My suggestion would be go back to the software developer that wrote the app, visit their website, understand, do they already have a support policy for that application. Even if they don't, there's a good chance that it's going to be compatible, given what I mentioned earlier about the efforts we've done on Windows 10. So bring it into your pilot and do some testing on it, depending on the importance that application is, relative to other applications.
But at the end of the day, if I'm going to be doing this big upgrade and I'm evaluating which of my vendors are providing me applications that are proven to run reliably and they're giving me support statements, I'm probably going to feel like at a certain point, if that one particular vendor of an application that's not yet compatible holds up my operation, I may start to look around and find an alternative. Wouldn't that make sense?
I think so. I mean, free is one thing, but when you're paying for applications, knowing that there's support behind it goes a long way. And so I believe in the long run, being able to sell that you have a modern support policy is going to be a differentiator, at least in the short term. And in the long term, hopefully more and more support modern support policies, if you will, and it'll be really just expected.
So the importance for ISVs to report and to register their support statements it's pretty critical, it seems. And what would you say to any ISV that was questioning whether or not the hassle was worth going through and actually making those commitments, because we are asking them for a commitment to make on behalf of their customers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was just speaking to one of our commercial ISVs 2 nights ago, and this very topic came up, which is number one, the cost is free. The time investment to make that declaration is very, very small. And usually these ISVs already have a support policy on their website. And so this is a great place with a small number of steps to get visibility. Think of all of the commercial customers that are on Windows 10 or considering Windows 10 that will use tools like Windows Analytics. They'll automatically bring this information in. In just minutes, they can automatically bring visibility to their app to all of those companies that are moving to Windows 10. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really, I believe, going to be a differentiator. But in addition, our marketing group is also promoting the website as well. And so as IT pros that are just considering going to 10, maybe not yet using Windows Analytics, still they can start looking to see who's supported and who's not. And if their competitors supported and they're not, then it's going to be a differentiator for their competitors.
A lot of work went into the upgrade tool, the analytics tool. And I'm wondering, once the initial upgrade to Windows 10 has been completed, why should we think that there's continued value in using that tool in the future?
Continued value using Windows Analytics?
Yeah.
Yep, I think it's the similar challenges as to getting to Windows 10 in the first place, which is, you have many devices or seats that are on, say, the previous version of Windows 10, still supported, but they want to be able to take a preview and plan how do they roll out the next release. And hopefully these subsequent releases become easier and easier because they'll do them more frequently. I think that's a key reason, which is, getting to 10 doesn't mean your planning of moving forward ends. Some software out there, some commercial apps may regress unrelated to Microsoft on a future release. Windows Analytics combined with Ready for Windows will help surface that, even if it's a challenge with a particular version of that application.
So it's got a long life to it. It's a very useful tool and worth us investing in. And I know that we also have some plans to add new features to it, and I don't want to get too deep into that. But one of the things I have to say I was really excited about was when I heard that as Windows and Office come closer and closer together, we've synchronized our servicing in terms of the updates on a monthly basis and the twice-a-year upgrades. And what I heard a little bit about is the add-ins for Office that we also want to make sure are compatible when we do an upgrade. Is that something that's actually going to happen in the near future, or can you say something about it?
We've just recently shipped an update where we allow software developers that write Office Pro Plus COM add-ins to declare support. We brought in their telemetry based on telemetry that the Office team has collected. So as I'm moving to Windows 10, and I may be considering moving to Office Pro Plus as well, one of those considerations is, Office Pro Plus may be running fine, but how about all those Win32 add-ins, those COM add-ins that I will use in Excel or Outlook and so on? How are they running? We now bring to the table those add-ins right within Ready for Windows, and very soon that will get integrated in with Windows Analytics.
Wow, that's critical. I was getting worried there because I depend on a lot of those add-ins. So if you're a developer of commercial Windows applications, it's important that you take action to register on Ready for Windows. You can find more information on Ready for Windows and upgrade analytics and app compat guidance at www.readyforwindows.com. And thanks for joining us today, and